This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the November 10th, 2022 meeting of the Easthampton Community Garden Committee, which will be our final meeting of 2022. If hopefully everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda, to look at the minutes, and to look at Ted's CFO report. Thank you again, Ted. We will be getting to that in a minute. The time is now 7:07. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The first matter is always public comment, which is an opportunity for the public. Come on in, say hello, and say what's ever on their mind. But I see only committee members present, not members of the public who are not committee members. So unless anyone is aware of anything from the public, any comment, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is acceptance of the minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to look at the minutes from our last meeting? Which would have been October 6th. I can, well, if actually I know how to do it on Google, well, let's just see the way I would, how I would post it. Does anyone need me to put it on the screen? Let me ask that. No?
No.
Okay, so of those who were present at that meeting, which was Frank, Mark, Ted, Eric, Sarah, and myself, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the October 6th meeting?
So moved.
I
Okay.
do have one thing that needs to be changed.
Okay, great.
It's just a name.
Okay,
And when I find, there it is. It was under the operations report.
okay,
It was in, excuse me. Lista suggest, this is the very beginning of it. Lista suggested closing down C1 and 2, D1 and 2 quadrant because of thistle. Need to hear from Olivia, and it said Susan, but that would be Sarah.
oh, it's Sarah, okay, we can fix that.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, great pickup, Frank.
Everything else, at least from my perspective, looked all right.
Okay, let me make that change. Okay, so I've made the change.
Okay. I move we accept the minutes as amended.
Okay, Ted has moved for adoption as amended. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Frank is. Okay, all in favor of the adoption indicate aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to adoption? No, you can't vote, Marty. Don't try to sneak in a vote. Okay, so the motion was adopted unanimously. And now we can move on to next order of business, which is our treasurer's report. And I turn to our esteemed treasurer, Ted Stock.
No changes this month. I guess we will have a bill for the shut off of the water and so forth, but that would be in the next report. So basically this is what we're finishing up with for the year. You can see what is currently in our purchase orders, available through the purchase orders, and the amount that we have, which is unallocated, and the amount that we currently have total in our petty cash between what I hold and what Stephen holds for the keys, etc., at the shed. Are there any questions on that?
Quick clarification, Ken, obviously the numbers haven't changed because nothing's changed, no revenue, no expenses, but just to clarity, the petty cash total and the account total are separate, or is the
No,
petty
the petty
cash
cash
factored in?
is separate.
Is separate.
The
So
ECG account total is what we have to process through the city.
I see, great. So altogether, if you add to, it brings us a teensy bit over $3,400. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
None. I don't.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the treasurer's report?
Sure.
Margie moves. Is there a second?
Come on,
Second.
somebody, let's get this meeting going.
Second.
Okay, Sarah. Well, I'm going to give Sarah the second since you had the last second. All in favor of adoption? Indicate
Yay.
aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, the treasurer's report is adopted unanimously. Your unbeaten string continues, Ted.
Wait a minute. There's a missing quarter.
Oh my God.
Oh,
I mean, like
Frank, come on.
fiscal quarter or what? Come back to your brandy. All right, actually, maybe that was a good segue into our operation report, and I turn to Frank for that.
Okay. So we had I would say, a robust cleanup day. There was a lot of people there, considering how it's been sometimes in the past. It was B5 and B6 were both fairly well cleaned up. B6 especially with a lot of work because the entire thing had the landscaping cloth, and it took quite a while to get it all up, but we did.
Wow.
Yep, and there was some broken glass in there as well. So, and I need to go back and dig it. I forgot about that. I need to go back in there with a claw and dig and see if I can find the rest of it.
Let me pause for one quick second because Linnea has joined us. Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Hey, Linnea.
Hey.
Just want to bring you up to speed. We're making our way through the agenda. So we've already adopted the minutes from the last meeting, and we adopted the treasurer's report, which is basically the same financial situation as last month. And now we're moving on to operations. And I think you're muted.
Should be a little thing that looks like a microphone on the menu.
All the way.
Yeah, Linnea, under in the center of the screen.
Move the cursor down to the bottom, see if it pops up.
Yeah, in the bottom center of your screen, there should be some little icons. One looks like a microphone. It should be on your left. If you just click on that, it should take the mute off. At least that's how it's appearing on mine.
You just raise your hand.
She raised her hand, so you found the icon.
Yeah,
She found that.
Just go over to the left of the hand. Can you hear us?
Okay, that's good.
You know what I did? I had to go out and then go back in before I could see that bar. So maybe if you go out and go back in.
You do see it. Turn
your speakers on, maybe?
No, she's
Well,
muted. It's not that.
You can see the microphone has got a slash up in the corner of her screen. It's muted.
You can also call on the phone and join while you watch.
Stephen, you can't unmute her?
No, actually, I looked just at that and it says you can't unmute someone else. That question is answered. Okay, well, let's,
Okay, we'll continue on.
if she comes back and she can hear us, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, she's
Okay,
right.
wait a minute.
Got her phone. Okay.
Somebody listen.
Go ahead.
B5, are we gonna go on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
And like I said, B5 and B6 were relatively cleaned up. B2 was covered. I have all that we finished covering. Most of the hoses were put away except for the one we couldn't unscrew.
Yeah.
And still got to go through the hoses. I still intend to mow before it gets really cold. And probably what I'll do, I'll get my son to come up, and then we'll have to put the mower in my car like we do when I take it to get serviced, and we'll just take it to my house and I'll clean it with the hose there and then bring it back because I don't want to leave it nasty over the winter. And correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, but there were people doing some work on the pollinator plot that day as well, I think.
Adding wood chips.
Yeah, and there was some weeding done on the donation plot as well. So all in all, it was busy up there. It was really nice to see.
Frank, I got a question.
Sure.
What's the plan for replacing the defective hoses? When I did an initial rough survey, there were probably 4 or 5 that were not working very well. So I don't know, are we gonna do that first thing in the spring? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm trying to think, because I'm off tomorrow. I may have time to go to buy Tractor Supply just to see if they've got any hoses left up there, because I'm not sure what they'll have at the end of the.
I think we want to get rid of the ones that aren't functioning, though. I mean, either repair them if possible, which probably isn't, or else donate them to somebody who can make some use of them, because there's no point in storing an endless amount of hoses in the shed. It's getting pretty crowded in there.
Agreed. So,
By the way, I have 3 hoses I can donate, but I'll keep them in my basement for winter and bring them in the spring.
yeah, don't bring them now.
Long. One of them is so long, it might be good for by the shed. It's really long and quite heavy.
Because there's a couple that I just left outside by the shed that are going to go in the garbage. So,
I meant by the watershed, yeah.
and I might have access to a dumpster.
I do.
You do?
Yeah, the dumpster right outside. I just can't lift super heavy stuff right now.
Right. Okay.
But I've taken things here before. I can take stuff. And if someone wants to ride with me, I'm happy to meet up there and then ride back to my house and then back to the garden.
Yeah, I think what we could do is the hoses that are trash, we can just roll them up kind of tight and tie them and then label them as garbage. Because they're probably not going to be very heavy. So yeah, I'm not quite sure when I have time to do that. If anybody else wants to meet me there to do it and go through hoses, I could do that. But
I could help.
There she is.
okay.
Yeah, I could. And Margie, if we want to go through them or however it works, I could help. We could access your dumpster.
Yeah, we could go dump them, sure. Just let me know. I may not be able to do it the same day you do, but it won't be long after.
Yeah, we could figure some. We'll work on that if you'd like. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
Right. So
Sure.
let me write this down.
Yeah, and it's just not letting me unmute on my computer. It's very weird.
Yeah, that is weird. Well, you can hear us. We can hear you.
Yep.
And then I will still try to work on getting some help from up the street to push the compost
Cool.
piles back into where the compost area is supposed to be. Some people didn't read the email carefully and just kept throwing it outside instead of inside. So now we have some interesting piles. C12 needs to be cleaned up still. And if anybody emails that wants something to do, we could tell them to pull what they can out of that.
What did you say, C12?
C12.
One at the end that's where the dirt was removed?
Yeah.
And they took the soil away? Okay.
Yeah, we should probably think about rehabilitating that plot because we've lost at least 2 because of the thistle. Unless we do, someone wants a garden in containers. And I think, Eric, you brought that up last meeting. That's an option on those plots. So it's something for us to think about. And there's still a couple of people who need to clean their plots up. They haven't done anything, and I know who they are, so I'm going to email them. And then last but not least, Stephen, were you going to call Broadbrook? Did you say you were going to call them?
I did. And I think I sent,
Right.
did I not send an email out to folks after I reached them that they were gonna do it presumably?
They are coming out.
Yeah, and they quoted us a price, I think it was 150 or 1.25.
Okay, good. 'Cause
Did did anyone get that?
What was it for again?
This was,
I might have missed. There's a lot of emails flying around. So
What was Broadbrook? What is it?
Broadbrook,
Yeah,
yeah,
this
they have
is-
to
this was
purge
one-
all of the pipes.
Yeah.
Wait, I
to-
don't understand. It's all breaking up now. I don't like this Google Meet thing.
No, Google Meet sucks.
Yeah, but you were talking at the same time and it was also breaking up, so I didn't get anything. Can you please repeat it, somebody? Broadbrook is for what?
Broadbrook is they were the ones who put the whole water system in for us initially. So every fall they blow the system out to get all the water out of the pipes so nothing freezes and breaks. So that's just an annual thing that has to be done before it gets really cold.
And we pay for that?
Yes, we actually have a line item for that in the budgets for Broadbrook.
I sent out an email on November 1st.
Yeah, I think I got it.
No, I remember the
And-
email. I just didn't remember if you had actually that you were gonna contact them, but I probably didn't see the second reply or whatever.
They quoted us at 150.
150, yeah.
Okay, cool. We can easily cover that with what's there.
Is it about
So
the
it's
same every year?
What's that, Marge?
Is it about the same every year? Have you noticed it going up a little bit?
Yeah,
I don't know what it's been in the past, to tell you the truth.
Just curious.
it's reasonable.
And I have a question. Because we have $365 in there. So
Mhm.
we'll encumber 150. So we're fine. We just leave the rest in there. We don't have to zero anything out and start over from scratch, right?
Right, that it's highly recommended that once we have a purchase order in effect, that we should just not zero it out and get
Right.
rid of it and then have
Okay.
to reestablish it, but
Right,
just
right.
to keep some money in it.
Okay. And that's pretty much all I have from operations. Anybody else have any questions?
Can I ask
Mm,
about the purchase order with the lumber store?
We don't have one. We have not approved one. But we could work on it. I would have to check with Barbara and see whether or not we have to go through the process, or whether or not there's another account at the city that uses Fleury just as Tractor Supply.
Let's add that to new business. Can we do that? Yeah, I know we
That's up
talked.
to Stephen.
I know we talked about this before. So, and I'm gonna guess the city has an account with them. I can't imagine they don't.
No, I mean, we can ask that it be done.
Yeah.
In whatever way is possible.
Yeah, 'cause
we
we're
would
gonna
just
want-
have to decide on the amount that you would want to put into that purchase order.
Yeah, because we'll need. We're definitely gonna need a bunch of lumber in the spring.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to. Karen, you'll talk about what you want to do, so I'm not going to talk anything about that.
Yep.
But I know up top by the parking area, we need to replace all that wood, all those beds.
I guess with those ones, the main one that's broken is the one on the far, depending on how you're looking at it, the far right. But the middle one, I guess it's urgent if we want, but it's not, I don't know, it's more aesthetics than it is damaging that. Like that soil is just kind of depleted and needs
Yeah,
more dirt in it. But the boards that are there holding was there pretty well. But aesthetically, yeah, it doesn't look very good.
We'll just grow flowers over the side and cover them.
Just nasturtiums everywhere.
But if we're gonna replace one, it might not be a bad idea to just do it all.
Yeah.
Be awesome to just have stonework there instead, but then we're gonna spend
Yeah.
some money. Maybe the Conway
So
school is into stonemasonry too.
Why don't we just say an action item coming out of the operations report is Ted to kind of follow up on Fleury Lumber and see, as Frank suspects, that there's probably already a city contract with them, and that see just like it was with Tractor Supply, and then see how we, who it is and how we would access that.
Yeah, now, I guess the question is the amount. We'd want to give them an amount that, so I can say that it was just approved, as we did with Tractor Supply. The city Recs department had some unpaid bills back in June, and I said, we've never approved anything with Tractor Supply, so we were off the hook. I just want a definite date when we get involved and an amount so that they don't hold us to anything that happened prior to that.
Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing is that you would like us to take an action that includes how much money we would want to put, into our account once we find out that an account exists.
Yeah, just to get us started. If it's $250, $200, $300 to get us started, we can always add to it if necessary. Maybe start with $200. That's not going to buy a lot of wood these days, but
I was gonna say probably want to start with 3.
So why don't we do this? There was a suggestion that I heard that we consider creating that amount as a new business item, which we will take up at the end of the meeting when we do new business.
okay.
In the meantime, let's move on with the rest of the reports. Moving on to the outreach reports. Margie, internal outreach.
Nothing's really going on right now. I haven't received any emails or, a couple that I forwarded. As far as I know, there's 4 or 5 open plots. Depends what you count as open. But I'm counting B5, B6, and C9. So actually, there's really only 3 because I think D1 and D2. Was it C2 also? Or C1 and C2?
No, C9 is not open. Karen took that one.
Oh, Karen, you got that one. Okay.
Yeah. Karen's in that one now.
I
Caitlin and
think I-
Laura left on that one. Yeah.
So it's just B5 and B6,
And then and C12 for sure.
but aren't we holding off on that one?
Well, we could, yeah. It's probably not a bad idea. And maybe when we order compost in the spring, we could throw in an extra, some extra compost just to build that plot back up. The other two, I forgot about this one too, Margie. On B, the other half of Ted's, that one is open as well. There's a half plot open in B8.
B8?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did put that out there, but nobody took it.
Yeah, Phoebe had that, and then she couldn't continue.
I think we'll find someone, particularly someone who comes in later, who might just want that half.
Oh yeah.
I think
Well,
And
just to let you know, I paid for the full lot. I didn't charge Phoebe anything. And I'd be willing to do the same again if you want to make the half a lot, half a plot scholarship.
that's nice.
Oh,
Sweet,
nice.
sweet. Good idea, Ted.
That's real nice.
Very kind. Did I not hear you say, Margie, did you not say D9? D as in dog?
No. C9, B5, B6.
C.
But I was wrong because Karen took C9. So it's not open.
Yeah, because we took C2 offline.
Yeah, I was D1 and D2 are off, right?
Well, we're still waiting to hear. They're not off yet.
And what about C1 and C2?
C1 and D2, we have not heard back.
1 and C2?
Olivia seems to kind of want to stick it out. So
All right.
that was my sense. I'm not sure. And I saw that that Sarah and her mom had, that's where the Susan came from, by the way. I just looked again. So I kind of stand corrected there. But there have been wood chips put down on part of the plot, so they may be planning to stick it out. We'll see.
And just remind me again which one you're talking about?
We're talking about C1.
C1, okay.
And then D2, so far, they have not signaled they were going to go, although Sarah and her mom were kind of leaning towards either taking B5 or B6, but they had not committed yet.
C2, you said?
Yeah, they're in C1.
C1.
Yeah.
Other Sarah, not me, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's two Sarahs.
I'm
trying to-
C3.
C2 and
Sarah
C1 is working.
Sarah Greenleaf.
Yeah, okay.
So Frank, that's why I had Susan in the
Yep,
minutes.
I know. I just looked again and I'm like, all right, I kind of screwed up there a little bit.
I was wondering because I thought it was the mom.
It is. Susan is her mom.
So I'm
It's
gonna
Susan is mom.
I'm gonna do Sarah / Susan. Okay,
That's fine.
we'll fix that damn thing. All right.
I don't.
Perfect. Okay.
I just had a thought too that if nobody takes your half a plot, Ted, and we get a really long waiting list, or even any waiting list, and there's nothing available, it might be an enticement to tell them there's a half a plot for free if you want it.
Oh, sure.
So see what happens. Are we going to talk about raising fees tonight, or are we waiting till next?
That's coming up.
Okay. Get ready.
Stay tuned.
We're
I don't
saving
think
dessert for last.
Yeah, same bat channel.
We can move it along now. Can't move anything else. I haven't been really on top of things because I had dental surgery, which got complicated, and it's finally healing. So I feel like I'm back, but I've been a little out of it.
Well, it's okay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So how about the external outreach and Eric?
All right, so I posted for this meeting. I am going to do some advertisement for the open plots within the general Easthampton Facebook adjacent groups. I wanted to wait until we got final word on our application process and if there's going to be a bump in the amount before I started doing that. So hopefully after today, I'll be able to send that out and start doing some recruiting.
Okay.
It might be good. I found out about the garden through a sign that was posted in Small Oven. So if it's not too annoying, you could also do some little signs.
Where was it posted?
Yeah.
It was at Small, but now our sign is off limits based on how we were set up. But like Shelburne and other spots have bulletin boards, maybe put one.
Yeah, I take a stroll through the downtown and see who's got open bulletin boards. I could be cool.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of them to put up signs for musician friends. There's a ton of them everywhere, lots of places. It's a job to put them up everywhere.
And we can double check with the clerk about it being posted in the city website. We can do that. All right, well, yeah, we all agree it'd be nice to start the new year off full up with lots, and then so that we can build a waiting list, and a really healthy one. Anything else, Eric?
Nope, that's it.
Any questions for Margie or Eric?
I have a suggestion for Margie. This is just something for us to think about. Maybe we send out an email just inquiring with people of who will not be coming back. Because some people, they just disappear. But, if we send out kind of a general email asking if people know, if they have a pretty good idea whether they're coming back or not, or actually whether they're not coming back, to please let us know.
Well, I think it's good to hear an affirmative also, I think
Sure.
that- So I will send an email out telling people we're kind of testing the waters and seeing
Okay.
who's coming back or who knows they're not coming back.
Yeah, because there's a couple of plots I just haven't seen anybody in them in a long time. So I'm kind of wondering if they've just disappeared too. But I know they are. I'll email them, and if I hear anything, I'll let you know immediately.
Well, I'm going to put something in there about one of the reasons we're sending this is because we've noticed some plots don't look like they've been worked at all. So hence this email. Good idea.
Very good idea. All right, anyone else? If not, we move on in our agenda and turn to the donation garden. And Mark.
Okay, well, the donation garden is officially closed for the year. We've been blessed to have good volunteerism, especially Linnea, who has chipped in and done weeding and put some straw down. And we had a nice chat, and she had some good ideas for how to put it to bed for the rest of the year and get it ready for next year. Again, we'll still be looking for somebody to manage that project because I won't be doing it, but I'll be on the committee to help. Happy to do that, but I'd like somebody to oversee it. So there is a bit of kale still growing there, very small kale. Somebody wants to grab that and take it over to the community center, that would be great. It's not very abundant, but maybe every little bit helps. So yeah, so it'd be good to think about who wants to take over the donation garden for next year, and then kind of plan, what do we want to grow? This year we were pretty successful in some regard. We got tomatoes, we had potatoes. I had some potatoes that came in. Good amount of kale, some green beans, and the squash that we tried to plant did not come in very well. This again, the committee needs to be formed, a subcommittee, really make sure that it gets managed throughout the year, that the watering, the weeding, that has to be done. That was only done by a small fraction of people this year, mostly me, and I'm not saying that to brag, it's just that was a reality. And I think it needs to be, if we're going to do a donation garden, then it really needs to be invested in terms of time and effort. So I would say that.
I'll put a
Sorry.
request in the email.
Yeah, well, yeah, and hopefully they'll step forward. But, we had people step forward and then they didn't show up. It was like,
I think it might be good that first meeting where there's like a sense of urgency, so a lot of people come to it. I think just making everyone at that meeting officially declare which committee they're going to work for, so you can see them, it just helps the accountability, because the emails just aren't a very accountable
I agree.
thing, and people can, so the more we can just be like, the person who's in charge can waive the people who are like, I'm going to work with that person, and and then we can even do that again at the opening workday too.
Well, and remember that Deb has volunteered to be the volunteer coordinator, so she's going to hold people accountable, and so we don't really need to worry about any of this if she continues to do what she offered to do, which I think is great, and she seems to have great energy for that. And that's probably most of what I have to say, but I just want to say that your faces are flashing on and off, so I really think this Google Meet is really an insufficient tool to do this with, and I don't know why we can't go back to Zoom unless the city prohibits us from doing that.
How much is a Zoom account? Could we use that as part of our budget?
It's about $160 for an unlimited time.
Is that per year, Ted?
Per year, yeah.
And that's just to host, right? That's if you want to host.
Yeah, you can host meetings.
Yeah. But I mean, I attend Zoom meetings all the time, but I don't pay anything because I'm not hosting.
Yeah, it would just be
Correct.
like one of us
Yeah,
would have
this-
to be the account holder, and run the. Yeah.
It's,
So-
it's not a, I mean, I've got the account, and that's what we've been doing, right? Historically.
Yeah.
When I say that's what we've been doing, since we kind of reverted back. Prior to that, the city had a Zoom account, right?
Right.
So, and then they made a determination, if I understand it, is that that Google Groups was a less expensive way of going. So I don't know if the city has Zoom account, but that said, if the city is agreeable, we can maintain a Zoom account and do what we did last month when the Zoom thing, the Google thing didn't work.
We can. Barbara said we can.
We used my Zoom, and then I transferred the recording. I brought it over to IT, and they uploaded it, which is all they really care about, I think, to some extent. Is just getting it.
We can keep using Zoom, Barbara said, just the city doesn't have the account. She sent an
That's right.
email.
Right.
We
But,
need our own
it's a
account.
public meeting. They want to make sure people know and they can access it. We post it as part of our notice. And it's just an extra step of getting the recording to the city. But in any event, let's see where they're at. I mean, I hope they go back to Zoom. It's worth whatever it is. And I don't know.
Yeah. It helps with our communication, which isn't that frequent, but when we have it, we want to have it go smoothly and be able to see each other and not have difficulties getting on. I just think that should be a priority.
Yeah.
All right. So noted. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Mark, to your report?
No, it's fine, Stephen. No, I'm good.
Thank you. And thank you again, of course, for all your kind efforts. I will see if I can swoop by on Monday and harvest the rest of the kale.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's just sitting there. And
Yeah, I agree. Why not give them what we got?
That's right.
Okay, that brings us to the pollinator garden in Karen.
Okay, so the pollinator garden has got a nice layer of wood chips on it. We have some perennials in there. We had been putting some annuals in. I'd like to keep doing some annuals next year because they grow well. They're very sturdy and they're nice and showy, and the bugs like them. This year I actually went and measured it, and I noticed that it had sunk down and the grass had grown in and made it smaller. So I'd like to start putting some beds in, raised beds. It'll be easier to start filling in the soil there, raising it back up, and it'll keep the aisles neater, make it more clear. So I had mentioned that to Frank, and maybe this spring, if we can get wood, then we can build some raised beds over there.
Well, we definitely can get wood, so we can do it.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions for Karen or comments about pollinated garden?
Karen, I think if you get the dimensions for the raised beds.
Well, I went first. I went looking to see what wood was available because we need wood that can hold up. So cedar would have been good. I couldn't find big cedar boards. The best I could find by going through the major places like Home Depot and Lowe's was Douglas fir at 2 inches by 8 inches by 8 feet. And if you guys know, if it says 2 inches thick, it's really 1.5 inches thick. And if it says 8 inches wide, it's really like 7.5 inches wide. I'd rather 10 inches, but I couldn't find it. So the other thing was to talk with Flurry and see if, like, do they have better boards available? I don't know. I was waiting to find out if we were going to get a purchase order with them.
I'm pretty sure they have 2x10s, and like I said too, they deliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't want to get it delivered until we're there to build it and put it in place.
Yep.
And that would be next spring.
That's correct. But if we know the dimensions, like we could even measure out the ones up by the parking lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how many we want to replace, one or all. So we just figure out the board feet, and then we could actually go to, I wouldn't mind doing this at some point and go to Flurry and just kind of at least get an approximate price on all of it. That's a good idea. What we need to put into the account.
So I went ahead and measured out. I mean, I didn't add it up, but in thinking about transferring some perennials in there, I didn't want to put them in a spot where it was going to end up, we had the edges of the board there. So if you look over there, I've got some bamboo stakes and some yellow tape. That I did it based on thinking that I could only get 8 feet long boards. So if I know what size boards we can get, I can remeasure it. So I was thinking 8 feet long, then cut them in half. So it'd be 8 feet by 4 feet beds and on the edges. And then in the middle, it would be maybe 6 feet by 4 feet along those edges to help define the edge of the pollinator garden. But you'll see, if you go by there, you'll see the sticks and the little yellow tape.
It might be worth then to, when we do the compost order, to get like an extra bit for the pollinator garden to help fill those raised beds, and to get some for those little ones by the parking, now that I think of it. Just because when I tried to bring bags, the one got stolen, and then I got overwhelmed by like, how many bags should I buy? So it might just be easier to do it when we get the compost, because
and then just put it in there.
Yep.
So Frank, should I go over to Flurry and ask them what size weatherproof wood would be available? Like what kind of wood do they have?
They have pressure treated, and it doesn't have arsenic in it anymore. I just, again, it's going to have some chemicals though, so you just have to decide if you probably good. It'd be good to do a little more research on the pressure treated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they don't make it with arsenic anymore, so that's not an issue. Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's some other kind of protection we could put on it, even just like an oil, if nothing else.
Well,
Even
let's see. We should be able to get something that you said, Karen, you looked at. I'm sorry, you were trying to get cedar, right?
Yeah.
My wife just got some cedar yet today at Lowe's.
Okay.
To make boxes. So I think that they're there, but I think Flurry will also have that. So let's see if we can't access cedar if possible.
Okay.
okay.
There is a big difference in cost. Cedar versus.
It's worth it, in my view.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
worth it when you have money. Yeah, I mean, budgeting, we do have to look at that.
Well, when I was looking at Lowe's before, the Douglas fir, the 8-inch by 2-inch by 8 feet were about $10 each.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge price drop from what it was this past summer or spring.
Yeah. Well, that's I was looking in October for that.
Okay.
Well, new buildings kind of falling off the edge.
It's end of season too.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we got a little bit of exploration to do. Okay, Karen, is there anything else you wanted to add to your report?
No, just that.
Okay, thank you again. Thank you for your efforts. This is an area that is going to just be expanding. So
Yes.
it's so important. We move on to the next item, which is what we've always called gardener feedback, and that gives the opportunity for anyone who is a garden community member to come and say whatever they want to say. I don't know if there's anyone who fits that bill today. Is there anyone who wants to put their gardener hat on and say something?
I just
If
wanted
not-
to put on the agenda to talk about the application.
Yeah, that's our new business thing. We're
Okay, great.
that's where we're headed. So that's why I just wanted to check all the boxes before then. But if we are at that point in new business, we do have some important new business. A lot of it is, in fact, most of it is geared toward getting us in shape for 2023, which is what we discussed at our last meeting. And I think everyone felt it was a good idea to use this meeting for that purpose. Let's while it's fresh in our minds, since we agreed that procuring more lumber for a variety of purposes, the boxes, the flower boxes by the parking lot, and for the pollinator garden. So Ted, I'm going to turn to you again because I'll allow you to make a motion for trying to get a vote on an amount to start off with, so that you can proceed at least with Flurry to see if we can't access the city county if we want. So I'll turn to you.
I'd rather go to Frank because he knows what the need. I have no idea the amount or type of what you're talking about. I just think we need to come up with some amount. I assume we're going to be doing this in the spring just to get us started and ready to go. And we can always add to it later on. It sounds like we're going to have a greater need than a few 2x8s up by the parking area. So I would suggest perhaps at least $300 to begin with.
Yeah, I agree.
be
Sounds
authorized.
good. Yeah,
I think it's a good number to start with.
I've been figuring it out in my head a little bit. That sounds good. If it's $10, based on $10
Well,
for an 8-foot,
yeah, and we don't know what it's going to be
no, but
in the springtime, but we need to at least get something set up. And then we can deal with actual costs when we know more about. I think it would be helpful for anybody who plans on using wood to come up with what the needs are and perhaps let Frank know. And Frank, could you be the point person on just accepting the information on that? And then we can actually go to Fleury and see what would cost for what we actually need. Is that okay, Frank?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I just think we should put 300 in there anyway. Just
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would move, would be to move that we establish a purchase order with Fleury Lumber in Easthampton with an initial amount of $300, which we will take from our current unallocated funds and put it into the purchase order funds.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor for establishment of a PO in the amount of $300 that would be used once we discover or find out what we have to do to create an account with Fleury Lumber. So there's a motion. Is there a second?
yep.
A second.
Okay, Frank seconds. Any further discussion about starting off with a $300 amount?
Nope.
Seeing and hearing none, all in favor of voting $300 for that purpose, say aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? I don't see or hear anyone, so that motion is adopted unanimously. And so, Ted, you'll proceed with this vote to do what you have to do. Okay, so that's one nice piece of new business taken care of. The other new business concerns two things. One would be, looking and trying to see if we can reach consensus on garden policies, which include what the charges should be for the purpose of, potentially revising our application so that we can get the application to the city clerk's office well in advance of the 2023 season. And so that's one part of our business. The other part of the business would be organization, which would be to go through and get people in place for our positions that we have, the officer positions and the committee positions too, because I know for his part, Mark has indicated that we would like to move on that as well. So I guess the question is, should we do the positions first and then move to the application and the policies, or we want to start with the policies?
I have a question.
Yes, Margie.
Is there going to be that much change in positions? Isn't everybody?
We're going to find out.
Well,
Yeah,
I
let's
mean,
just do that first.
let's
Yeah.
just find out if there's going to be much change, and if it's only Mark, we already covered it, because I'm going to send an email to see if anybody would like to take that on. And if nobody else is changing, we don't really need to discuss very much.
Well, can we go
hold
around
on.
and everyone say what they're doing, and I'll fill out the rest of this application form? So outreach and social media coordinator, who's doing that? Still Eric?
Eric,
Eric, you're down to do it again. Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, Eric, you're elected by acclamation.
Ted already wrote down on the form for treasurer.
Well,
Deb filled out for volunteer coordinator. I marked for secretary. Operations coordinator is
I'll still do it.
great. If everyone does want to peek at the form at their leisure and just put their email in, because or I can look it up later, but donation garden then is the one. Is anyone wanting to do that?
Right.
Oh, nice, great.
Yeah, what is it? What does it entail? Like how many hours a week and
Whatever you put into it. You know, the basic, what is it, basic 4 hours plus whatever you can put into it. That's how I interpret my position.
okay.
And it seems like hopefully you'll have enough help. It won't be quite as much, but like Mark said, he wasn't bragging, but he does put in a lot of time into
Yeah.
the garden.
Yeah. No, it was frustrating this year, I think, with the drought and everything, you know.
A lot of
Yeah.
water.
Well, you also have,
Well-
it's kind of making some decisions about what you want to plant.
Yeah.
You know, to be donated, what's going to grow well, what's going to
Yeah.
yield enough so that we can make a significant contribution to the community center, those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun to plan that.
I should point out that there's one large part of the donation garden, which we used this year for zucchini and cucumbers and got a pretty good yield. We used for squash in the past, but it really needs either some intensive cultivation. Right now, it's a little overgrown by grass and weeds. And I paid for it myself to get it rototilled for a couple of years, but we shouldn't have to do that. So the hope is that can get taken care of and that space can be well thought of.
Oh, that's
Just to let you know.
yeah, I remember that there were the 4 raised beds, and then beside that,
Yes, that's right.
I remember. Yeah, I think.
Big open space.
Yeah, I might try to sheet mold that, make it a little easier.
That's a great idea, and I think Linnea's been willing to help with that too. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Linnea, there's one other aspect of the garden, and it can be separate, depends on what we want to be, which is there's obviously the tending of the garden itself. Then there's the delivery part to the community center. And I had that was my initial job that I had taken on in past years. And then this year we did have other folks who indicated that they could do that, and it was a good thing because then I became a little disabled in August. So that's another piece. We want to make sure that we've got that, and it's pretty straightforward. We've been doing it typically on Mondays and or Wednesdays. We do put out chests. So that's the only other part, is just to make sure that we're getting it out. And when it comes to the donation garden itself, most of the time, the folks who are growing it know when things are kind of ready to go. But it could also be that we do some of the harvesting it for the donation garden right, like just before delivery. So it's really.
I should point out that Autumn in C6 next to me has been the one who's been taking the produce to the community center this year. And I don't know if she wants to do that next year, but she's someone you might want to contact.
Right. So we need to get that straightened out with Autumn.
Yeah.
I've been trying. But
I
she may or may not want to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's great. Thank you so much. And that, Mark has done such an incredible job, and it's nice to have some relief on that, Mark. So that's terrific.
Yeah, I'll be happy to be a willing volunteer. I just don't want to have it be my second garden.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it was a lot here with the drought, with watering.
Oh yeah. That's right. I don't do a lot of watering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell Autumn and find out.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just check in and I'm happy to, since I feel like I'm recovered or recovered enough. I'm also be available. I can do it too.
Okay. Great.
So,
I think it'll be
So
fun.
we can be here.
Yeah.
That said, we still have technically, as every city committee technically have some officers. I mean, we should discuss this. So typically, the treasurer is seen as an officer. But I think we've taken care of that one. Thank you again, Ted, for coming in this year, doing that, and you put it in great shape. So I think we're very well set there. Now, the other thing is that the only other position has been what to date has been designated as the secretary clerk or clerk secretary, whatever. And don't ask me what the difference between a clerk and a secretary is, because I'm not certain myself, except that, being a public committee, you have to put out public notices about when the committee meets. You have to make sure that it's recorded and which includes minutes. And that typically is what a kind of a secretary clerk typically does. So I think we have options going forward, which could be that we could kind of split them. One be a clerk, one could be a secretary, or not split it and just have most committees typically have a chair, some identified individual who is the kind of connection that the garden has with the community, including the clerks, the city clerk's office, etc. So I do think we have, as we kind of approach the next year, about whether we want to designate someone as a chair or something like that, and then have a secondary position of a secretary clerk or whatever. So anyone have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. We could define the roles and label one secretary and one clerk, because it's probably up to us, how to define it. I think that's a good idea. We can put that out there.
So I had indicated, as Mark had previously, with his desire was that I've kind of done the clerk/secretary position now for 3 years, starting when the pandemic kind of all the folks that had been doing that stuff, this kind of moved on. So I kind of did it, but I didn't want to do it on a permanent basis. So I'm looking also to transition in that regard. To be very clear,
Sarah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
But to be very clear, we can transition. And so, Sarah, I know that you were very kind enough in indicating that you pick up the ball in that regard. But as we're kind of formulating this, is your thought about, just in terms of what the positions are called, keeping it secretary and clerk, or chair, secretary/clerk? It's just nomenclature, but any thoughts?
I guess it just depends on, I don't really have interest in necessarily having to do this secretary parts. I'm happy to do it, the emailing of the city and setting up the meetings. So I'm happy to, I guess it depends of how we define the roles, but I guess I like the idea of, running the meetings and, being a coordinator in that respect. So I don't really care if they're separate. Only reason I worry about them being separated is maybe because we struggle with volunteers anyways. But if I guess I don't care.
Yeah. Well, no, you've actually indicated exactly how the split normally is, which is the secretary clerk is kind of a ministerial type of thing, and then the chair chairs the meeting, chairs the committee as a point person. So I hear what you're saying. Your desire is perhaps more to be on the chair side, right, and not the ministerial side.
Well,
Oh no, what just happened?
Margie Margie, you
Margie.
blinked off and you are muted. You did it all at once.
Stephen,
Chloe, go meeting. Go
Stephen,
meeting to heck.
Yes.
I know that there are sometimes Barbara down at City Hall says that either you or I can sign certain documents to authorize payment.
Yes.
So that's an official capacity. I guess that would be under the clerk part.
That's a very good point, Ted, which is, being an authorized agent of the committee.
Yeah.
The treasurer is one, and then someone else is also. In my view, even though you could say, that's just a sign up and that's kind of ministerial, it is. I think that would fall under, in my sense, I think either the clerk/secretary could fill that, the second signer, or the chair. I mean, both would be authorized because they're both considered offices. But that's a good point. The point is that there are times in which another, apart from you or instead of you, can be a signer. So you're right. There's authority.
Yeah, it's important to have backup.
Yes, absolutely. So your point's well taken, and I think to what you were just saying, I think the way what our discussion has been is that could fall to Sarah as the chair, and it could also fall to whoever, to the secretary clerk.
Well, we can, I guess might be a good idea to separate those terms or like those roles. But
Okay.
for now, unless somebody else wants to, I could do both. And then, so I guess Margie had said she might send out an email about available positions. So we could put it out there. If people are comfortable with me doing more of the chair side, since I'm less inclined to do the secretary part, we could have that be part of Margie's email. We're looking for like the secretary clerk job. Otherwise, I'm happy to have my name on both of those until it makes sense for somebody who's like, I really loved, secretary stuff. Like Ted did with the money.
He loves money.
Yeah.
Yes. Stephen, just a question. If we try to go to Zoom meetings,
Yes.
would you be available to coordinate that? And
Yeah.
And I don't know how that would dovetail with getting videos, recordings of our meetings, and whether or not that would also, you could be just coordinated with the city regarding the setting up and doing the technical stuff for the meetings rather than running them, because you're
Right.
doing both of them now, and see if that's a way to define the position, or I'm not sure how else to go about that, if you're available to do that.
Yeah. Well, I indicated that I'm still a member of, I'm going to be a plot holder and can chip in. And I've always told Sarah when she was willing to pick it up that I would also work with her and we would transition together. But your point is well taken. If we did do the reverted back to the Zoom, then and I'm happy to donate to use my account if the city is not going to go back to Zoom, and I suspect that they won't. That we could do that, and then it's part of like what the minutes are, which is just deliver the recorded, because actually it is the best minutes. The wonderful thing about this is that for those people who don't attend the meeting, and we would love more people to attend, they can watch the whole, they can go right up on the city website, right? And they can watch the whole thing, so it is an important thing, and it's the best of minutes. It's better, it's accurate because you can see exactly, what people said and what actions were done. So I think, yes, if you notice actually on the public notice that we have to put out each month, it's put out by the clerk. It says clerk, actually. So that's the first step. The clerk, consults with the city clerk and says, we're meeting, for instance, as an example, though they know that we're normally the first Thursday, I did make a point to the city so that they know we switched for this meeting to the second Thursday of this month, because they keep a calendar. So that's part of what a clerk does. So I'm happy to continue doing that, Sarah, if that's something
Okay.
that's workable for you.
Yeah, so I'll write you down as the secretary/clerk, and we can always just keep in touch with, since you've shown me how to do a lot of it, that if you're, it'll be easy to pass a job off if like something, changes or circumstances are different too. But I wrote you on the application thing there.
So we'll
I
have a
just-
chairperson and a clerk, secretary
Yeah,
clerk.
we're
Those
splitting
two
those.
positions.
Yeah,
Do we somewhere have a definition exactly of what the chair does and exactly what the clerk secretary does?
Well, that's exactly why, and you're right, you're right, Karen. That's why we're gonna put that right in the application, where all the jobs are, and so people know exactly what everyone is doing.
Okay.
and
But we need to
if you
formulate that.
want, if it's too much to like, we'll go over the application, I think, at some point in this, but I can write up a couple descriptions really quick and you can edit them and, we could have the application basically done and then we'll look at it again in the spring. So
Yeah.
I'll add descriptions.
I can work with you about the definition of those positions.
Nice, great.
Margie,
I want to say something. Google Meet first it shut me up, then it took my picture away, and then it threw me off. So I don't like this. But I went back out, came back in, and it works again. But what I was trying to say when I was muted was, it sounds to me like we have an administration position and a meeting organizer position, because secretary and clerk are so vague. So I am proposing that we change the labels. And I may be missing something here, but this is what I'm getting from this, that Sarah, sounds like you're more into planning the meeting, organizing the meeting. And Stephen, you're going to continue to do more of the administrative stuff with the city. Is
yeah,
that
at least
correct?
as we work together so that we coordinate, yeah.
So we could just change the label for those positions so it's not so muddied.
Right.
Yes,
that's
we changed the
exactly-
label to chair and secretary/clerk for the two.
So what is the other one besides secretary clerk?
I would be called the chair and Stephen's secretary/clerk,
Oh, okay.
depending on how he feels that day, which word he wants to use.
Well, if he's submitting the recordings, he's the secretary, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Although the caller of the meeting is the clerk, so that's why we came about. But Karen made the point earlier that we're going to use the application to Margie to spell out precisely what each is, so people know. And I'm going to work with Sarah, and we'll get that. That'll be easy to do.
Yeah.
We'll get that
And
done.
Sarah can just tell you to call a meeting. Correct?
She could.
And Deb should have all that information too, because she's coordinating volunteers. It might be easy for her to plug someone in if someone doesn't want to do something anymore. If she has the definitions of all the positions. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Job
Okay.
descriptions are good.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the formatting on the application to add descriptions right now, but I'll work on that after, so I'm not distracted.
Okay. There are also some policy matters.
Oh, can I really quick, I just wanted to write down, I triple check that Karen, you're still doing the pollinator garden?
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
And then plot coordinator was on the application. That sort of seems like what you do, Margie, a little bit also.
Plot coordinator?
Plot coordinator, yeah.
I guess I do that.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, you definitely organize it all.
Of the job, but I feel like we're trying to all do that. I think Frank is pretty involved in that too, and we share the information because
I can get rid of that on the, it was just on the application, the old application that was listed as one of the committee jobs. And if we kind of all do that, I can just get rid of it too.
I think to include it under the outreach, the internal outreach, so a point
Okay.
person, someone from the outside, and that should be, and that's been Margie. The fact is
Okay,
that
internal outreach. And then, whoops. And then I had added first year garden coordinator, which we talked about at that one meeting, and I volunteered to do that, and I'm still down to do that too. Cool. And I think that's it. Unless Mark, did you want to sign up for any head of anything or add a head of something?
Well, I had said before I would be happy to assist Frank with the operations because it seems like
Okay,
that's a big job between the shed and the hoses and the other things that he's got on his plate.
Cool. Does that
Yeah,
feel good then to add your email to that, Mark?
Sure,
Mark, you want to be the hose coordinator?
I'll be the hose coordinator. Hose and nozzles. Hose and nozzles. But by the
Well, that's a
way,
big-
I found a steel nozzle, these old fashioned things. Remember those? I wonder if
those
those
are good.
would work better. They lasted pretty good. Or metal
I just
anyway.
talked to him.
Yeah. I don't think they leak the way these plastic thingies with
Yeah.
all the adjustments on
I
it
know.
do.
Yeah, they're
That's
We
a
might
beauty.
want to invest in some of those.
solid.
But we also, as part of that the series of jobs that Frank has and that I'm happy to help him with, I think also assessing the tools in the shed and what needs to be replaced and what needs to be discarded. I think that whole, shed organization has to be a part of that.
Yeah, we're gonna need to put a new wheelbarrow on the
Yeah.
for next semester.
And get rid of tools that are broken, or fix them or replace them or, whatever.
Rid of them.
Can we
Yeah.
get a cart,
A what?
a gorilla cart?
What's
They're so
that?
easy to use.
What are they?
It's it has the four wheels. It's not like a wheelbarrow, which can be unsturdy, and then it has a dumping action.
Oh.
It's my most used, treasured possession in the garden.
A gorilla
home.
cart. Okay, and you can get
Yeah.
them at any garden supply store, I assume?
I think I
I'm
got it at Lowe's or Home Depot.
Oh,
It was
okay.
a $90, and after
Gorilla.
3 years, I just replaced one wheel with a pneumatic wheel, the solid
Wow.
wheel. So they're pretty good, I have to say.
I'm looking at images of them now. There's some with 2 wheels, some with. They seem like they're liberal with the Gorilla Cart label.
Oh, and this turning capability, like the front 2 wheels, I don't know what it's called, but it can basically get out of tight spaces. It's very, very easy to use, I think, and I think we'd all appreciate it. Because I'm hauling wood all the time and everything else, so.
You know what we need? We need a sanitation engineer, kind of like a janitor. Because
Oh,
all around the shed is horrible. In the
True.
back of the shed, it's
Should that be a
awful.
coordinator position or one of the listed volunteer jobs,
Nobody has volunteered.
like
to do
crews?
it.
That needs to be a group effort.
So,
Yeah,
so more of a crew. Like we have separately like the committee members, and then we also then have like the crews that people can sign up to work on, like mowing crew and stuff. Should I add like shed and tidying stuff to that?
Janitorial crew.
Awesome.
I started cleaning up around there my first year. I don't know if anyone remembers. And I cleaned up the whole side. There was so much trash out there, but the garden was just too much. I couldn't even lift some of the stuff that was back there. I mean, not the garden, the back of the shed. And it's been just overgrown since then. So if there's more stuff there, but it's a mess. And spring would be a time to do that when it's not so overgrown.
It seems like there's a lot of stuff that requires lifting and moving. It's not easy. It's bulky stuff and junk. And I'm almost wondering if there's somebody, maybe through the city that we could employ or contract to take care of this rather than us breaking our backs and not having the skills to properly move it and then get it out of there. It's going to take a truck or something.
I'll email Barbara. That's a good idea. I will email Barbara.
Yeah, just explain the situation.
I also have a friend who likes annoying projects like that. So I don't know what the deal is if we like paid him. Like I know when I was moving, he just was so eager to take a bunch of stuff to the dump for me, and he does that for people. So I don't know if that's something we could pay him for, but I could ask him too.
Why not? Yeah, why not? Why not pay him? We got money.
Is there, would that just be, should we ask Barbara if we can pay someone to do something like that? That's not like a business.
Why don't I email Barbara and see if maybe the city will just do it?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's a great idea first, yeah.
Yeah, first and
And
foremost.
if they can't do it, then I'll ask her about what about paying someone to do it?
Yeah, explain that it's a problem. We need to solve it.
And then I'll just include I won't put that down as a crew, but I'm gonna write down maybe as part of the like agreement that you need to not trash the zone. So I'll just add.
Okay.
Very good idea.
Okay. So I think when we're starting, I know how we got into this because we've been talking about different committees and different work being done, but I don't want us to go too far afield into that at the moment. Although I will tell you, when we say someone working for us, we don't want to go through the thing about employment. Everyone is, it's a contract. Okay, we just, if someone does something, they get something.
Yeah, it's
so
like when we have
not consider it employment.
We paid people to rototill. Same thing, same concept.
So we shouldn't ask Barbara.
So, all right, but let's step back. That actually, first, there are two things we have to do before we get into the policy stuff. One would be we should take some that acknowledges what the quote unquote officers will be going forward. Discussed it, we should have a vote on that. Does anyone want to make a motion? And the motion would be that our officer contingent would be Sarah, Ted, and myself in positions that we have identified, but we're going to further define in our public application. If that's okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion.
Yes, we make a motion.
Sarah?
Karen can do it.
Okay, I hear Karen is making the motion. Is it seconded by anyone?
I'll second.
Okay, let me second that. Okay. All in favor of that contingent of officers? Favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Now, before we get into the policy stuff, this last discussion has also raised another thing. In all fairness to Barbara, we've got to say, she does interact with different people for different purposes. So, for instance, Ted, as the treasurer, will have interaction with the clerk's office, okay? The chair and or clerk, as an example, because, Barbara keeps track of, when the meetings are, et cetera, will have it. But, and Margie, she interacts with, whenever we do in the spring, of course, when we're going back and forth, she does. But we got to be careful, in all fairness to her, we got to be very clear about who's interacting with her and for what purpose. So it's just not fair to her to say, well, we'll just call Barbara about this, or we got more people. We really ought to make it I think, limited to that. Okay, in all fairness, Ted, someone who's in a chair clerk position, and you, Margie, for the purpose of the collection of the fees. Is that okay? And we don't have a vote on that. It's just sometimes we go too far afield. And Barbara's so wonderful that that. But I think, in all fairness to her, we got to be more mindful of that.
I was
Okay.
just kind of including her in my internal outreach because she's part of this.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, I think she is part of this, right?
Yeah.
So, and she did respond. So let's just talk about in terms of policies. Let's start with the fees, okay? We've had some interaction. There's been, you saw my comment, which is just that, from my experience, typically is that fees need to be, they can't be willy-nilly. They have to relate to real costs. Now, what's the reality? The reality is, we all know that our fee is well below, what the, not just the value, but actually the cost. As an example, we don't have a water bill per se. It's only because the city donates it, but the city donates it in part because we turn over our fees to them. It doesn't cover what the water cost truly is, but I think we can, in other words, I just want to make it clear, in terms of justifying whatever our fee is, we easily justify anything just on water alone. Never mind what else the city, might do. So I'm not worried about that. It's just that you do have to show a relationship. It's not per se that, well, inflation, general inflation is running at whatever percent, we should raise our thing. It's basic. It's based on actual expenses. Anyway, that said, should we try to settle on so that we can get out the application with the correct fee? There was from the discussion before, but let me just put something out, and then we can talk about it, which is setting a fee, but also making it clear, as we always have, that anyone who can't meet whatever the fee obligation is, we've got the wherewithal to cover anyone who can't. So I think we've been clear about that as a policy, and I've heard the same thing from folks, regardless of what we set the fee at, that we also have a policy that that no one will be turned away, and that if you call it a scholarship or whatever, but we will meet that. So the floor is open to try to resolve what we want to put in the application for what the fee is. Margie.
Well, the first thing at the very beginning of this meeting, Ted, our treasurer, reported that nothing has changed. Now, to me, that means our expenses haven't increased. As part of that, nothing has changed. So if nothing has changed, I don't see a reason to raise fees. And another point,
I think the reference was that when he said nothing was changed, the numbers are the exact same this month as they were last month. There was no income and there was no expense.
Right. So nothing has changed. That's my point.
Oh, we're talking about an annual budget, though. This is an annual.
This is the time of year
Yeah, but this is
when we
relative
don't have a
to
lot of costs.
if our budget increases, then maybe we need to increase fees.
Right.
That's how my mind works. If nothing changes and our budget hasn't changed, it seems to me we don't need to increase fees. I mean, we can anticipate that prices will go up. That seems to be part of life. But until that actually happens, and I think it's a good idea to put in the application, no one will be turned away if they don't have the ability to pay, and leave it at that. Because as Karen has supported me on this in an email, some people do not feel comfortable calling anyone and saying, I can't pay, can I have a scholarship? But if they can put in an anonymous application and write, like, check a box or something that says, I can't pay the fee, and one of us can get back to them with a proposal, like how much can you pay, or, maybe we have slots for 4 gardeners that we could cover. I mean, it's not feasible that we cover 45 gardeners who say they can't pay. So maybe we come up with a number and put that in the application. No one will be turned away. I really like how that was worded.
Without getting too far
Because-
into the Marty.
Just
No,
let
we
me
don't-
finish.
no,
Just
we
let
don't-
me say
right,
this one
okay.
more thing. In my job, I work with really poor people, and there are a lot of them. And they're people who have been so adversely impacted by, as you all know, as we all know, by the pandemic. And I feel like we are mostly a privileged group. We can all do this. We can all go to meetings. We can pay for a garden plot. We can pay for what we need for the garden. I wasn't always in this position. I had to ask for scholarships in order to garden, but I didn't have any qualms about it. But now the people I work with, some of them don't want to get SNAP benefits because they don't feel like it's like diminishing themselves to do that. They don't want to ask for help. And I have to respect that. It's a difference, you know, there's not one right or wrong way, but I think we need to kind of make it easy for people to get help, get assistance. The Northampton Garden has a box you check, and then you have to bring proof of income to the rec department. So that gardening committee and gardeners don't have that information, just the city has it. Now, I don't know that we want to involve the city in this again. That's not on my mind. But putting a statement, I think, would go a long way to take pressure off. Or we could say, check this box if you need assistance or something like that. I don't know. We have to figure out the details. But I feel pretty strongly about this, as you can tell. And I think it's because of the people I work with, our participants.
All right. The only thing I was going to add,
Yeah, take turns here, folks.
Yeah, if we could maybe organize this, Stephen has something to say, Frank had a hand up. And then we can go
Ted.
from there.
Ted also wanted to say, and it
And
was
then-
just a comment. Yeah, just so we're clear, and I've said it many times, we're public, okay? We're public. It's, you know, you have to be, everything is public. I hear what you're saying, Marty, we have to come, but we can't do things like anonymous, you know, applications, whatever. You know,
So I don't do that.
I'm just saying, you know, we have to stay public and everything has to be reported. It's as simple as that. Oh my goodness, we
Oh.
see you now, Lenny.
I'm opening a queue. That's great way to do it. Click your hand that you're raising on the thing, and now we've got a queue for people to talk.
Who's next?
Well, Ted, I was gonna have you go next, but
Okay, now I was just told I'm running low on battery, so I'm trying to plug in here so I don't lose you all. I'll be with you in just a second if somebody else wants to go.
We need you, Ted.
all right, Frank, you go.
No, I just want to say when Ted said nothing has changed, that's just nothing had changed in a month. So it's not like nothing had changed since the budget started. You know, and I hear what you're saying, Marge. I think, you know, I'd thrown an idea out in the email about a sliding scale. I like the idea that they'll just say no one will be turned away. The Northampton thing you talked about, people submitting their information to me is kind of creepy. I would really not want to go down that road.
I didn't get what you said, Frank.
Yeah, so I just, yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I'll let someone else talk for now because I'm still kind of thinking about all this.
Okay.
Just in regards to spending.
Okay. First of all, somebody brought up how much did it cost us for Broadbrook. I found last year it was $100. This year it's $150. Uh, there are several things. The way I do my reports is probably different from it's not actually a budget in a way, because we haven't really set a limit that we have to stay within. We've just left the money in our purchase orders, and then increased or decreased as we needed to. If we really want to look at our costs, our expenses, we also have to look at our income. Mark offered to help me, or at least sit down and talk about our financials. I really appreciate that. I think there's it might not have been done before exactly, but a couple of things were on my mind. One is we're looking at what seems to be major costs for wood, tools, equipment, and I think we really need to have a full inventory of what we own and what kind of shape it's in, and have a plan if replacement is necessary, when that would be necessary, and how much that replacement would be.
Right.
And I think that would be very helpful in making any short or long-term projections. I sort of see some of my responsibility is making sure that we stay afloat without coming down and saying, okay, everybody's got to chip in $50 now because we've spent more than we have. Another thing, in addition to the inventory and getting a handle, no pun intended, on our tools and other things, is what's our income going to be? How many plots are we actually expecting to collect money on, to have a fee for? We're down 2 lots. Are we going to have scholarships? If we have them, how many? Just so that we can properly project our income. Because when you give scholarship, you're denying income for those plots or that plot, whatever it is. And I think in the interest of our finances, we need to know and set a limit and not have it open-ended as to how many scholarships there would be. I would like to be able to come in with a budget. I plan on going back through all the records as they are. Sometimes it's a little difficult to figure some of the stuff out from what I've received, but to try to do some type of historical statement of what our expenses have been. What we have now is less than what the garden started with when it started, so that we have been slowly eating into the funds that were available. I would like to look more at, the history and see how that has progressed, and to try to bring us in line, and then maybe we would have a better idea of, as Stephen said, how do we show that our costs or increase in fees would be necessary? I would hope to have it done before the beginning of the next garden season, so I don't know when we have to publish the application forms, and whether it's possible to hold off for a while and have an early meeting. I don't remember. I don't think I was at the very first meeting necessarily when Stephen got me interested. Um, So I would be very happy to try to come up with something, but I need to know information from Frank or anybody else as to what our needs are. And if you say we should get this, come in and give us a price and where to find it, and so we can figure out how to manage this. And maybe some things have to be deferred for a while. What's a good amount that we need to have on hand for a rainy day? If we do have, if our lawnmower goes down, what's it going to cost us to replace it? How do we replace it?
Can I just ask, because I'm a little confused, just really quick, the purchase orders for, say, the lumber, that still comes out of, like, the city's not just paying for that because we asked them to. It's still coming out of our, like, budget, even though we don't have it organized in that exact terminology, right?
My understanding is we are a subcommittee of the Parks and Rec.
Right, and we have like this much money.
And a certain amount of money, and I don't know the origin of all the money, but my understanding is a certain amount of money was donated to create the memorial garden. And that's basically the funding that we've had in addition to whatever we've collected in our plot fees.
Okay, cool.
And the amount that was originally received, to the best of my knowledge, is only supplemented by our fees. So as we start to draw down on our endowment, if you want to call it that, we need to replenish that or keep our costs within what we still have in endowment and what our fees will provide. Because right now, the only way we have of increasing the amount of money we have available is through our fees. The city does not put any new money in, as best I can tell from everything I've read in what was given to me. We're not budgeted by the city. Like the city will give us an initial grant of $1,500 to start the year. We don't get anything like that.
Well, I would think you're right that going through the tools would be good. I also think that going through what we just proposed with the wood, how much we're going to use of our budget to purchase the wood for the raised beds, and maybe in addition the compost that we want to buy, including that in what we're anticipating trying to do next year for whenever, like you said, Ted, you and Mark might get together and kind of lay that out. And then if it adds up to such and such number, and Margie will at that point have sent an email after this meeting, seeing how many confirmed returning gardeners at this point we think that we'll know how many plots we'll have for sure filled. And then we'll have a little bit more understanding of our anticipated income based on those plot fees. And then, because I'm fine raising it $5 if it's going to meet up for some of these like projects that we've already brought up. But it seems like you said, we don't really know what's going on with the budget, and it would make sense if that process could happen of formulating what we're going to do next year. And I think there is a meeting before we send out the application and before we start that process where we could go over that budget.
Right.
Well, and then Margie can go.
I don't know if my hand is up or what, but I would just like to clarify. It is I like to just clarify two things. I never intended to suggest that applications would be anonymous. I only meant that sometimes it's easier to check a box and you don't really know who's seeing the application. It's the city seeing it, you think, than it is to contact an individual and ask for help. And if you've never been in the position of needing to ask for help, maybe, maybe you haven't thought about that or haven't experienced it, which I'm sure not everybody experiences everything. And then this idea of scholarships, I'm just thinking about this and it keeps hitting me the wrong way. Something is not correct with that. And I don't think I ever intended to give people the garden plot for nothing. It's just, and maybe this helps with raising fees, because if you are having some financial difficulty, maybe you can get it for half price, or $5 off, or $10 off if we raise the fees. Not a full scholarship, because in order to get something, I believe it's important to give something too. So, and it just dawned on me that I don't mean full scholarships, and even like the YMCA, they give camperships, but the parents still have to pay something. You just pay a lower rate. So that might be, if we defer it, or eventually think about maybe have 5 people, or space for 5 people to have a discount or something to that effect, not necessarily give away plots for free. So it would kind of like keep the $20 rate for people who couldn't afford, or for some people who couldn't afford an increase, something like that. Maybe that makes it easier, because I think, Ted, what you're saying makes so much sense, and it helps me to understand the reasoning. And I think it's good to have that concrete knowledge. I think that's great. That would help a lot. That's all.
Thank you, Margie. I would just say, if we had one plot, we already have 2 plots, for which we're not going to get any fees for next year, correct, Frank? Is it 2 plots? So there's, we have a donation garden, which is, doesn't pay fees. We have the pollinator garden, which doesn't pay fees. So there's 4. Maybe we should have, and I don't know if it would solve the problem, Margie, somewhat. As I say, I had some physical difficulties, and I probably will still have some by next year. That half a plot is all I can manage right now, and I would pay the full plot fee and donate half of it to somebody. If we took one of our plots and donated it, and maybe to save money, turn them into half plots and have 3 half plots available. If people have difficulty with the full fee, say we have half. I don't know if that's something that you think would be right. If I can't.
Just wanting to check, is it Linnea? Is that our other friend? Oh, did you still want to talk? There was you had your hand up before.
Let's see. Hi. I like the idea of half plots. But I feel like the fee, I think it's like $20, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty inexpensive. I think the real cost of the gardening is the planting, the compost, and things like that. And maybe there can be some kind of fund to help people assist with the actually planting, like donations of seeds and things. instead of the fees. I think if, Ted, you're seeing a decline in things, if there is Margie, the scholarship, the $5 off, that helps people. But I think the real money starts once you have the plot and you're like, that's the costs right there. That could be a couple $100 to get things going sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. If you're really poor, man, you find ways. You get stuff for nothing. That's what I did.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah. And there's a lot of nice seed exchange and things too. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Cool. Karen,
Good
did you have
idea.
something to say?
Yes, I think we can't go around saying that 20 or $25 is not a lot of money. For some people, that's a lot of money. And throughout my gardening life, I have managed to get plants and seeds from various sources, from seed exchange, from friends, whatever. The cost of the plot can be the largest cost. So, I think we should keep that part of it in mind. I like the idea also of maybe offering half plots to people as the discounted chance to do some gardening as well. So that's my 2 cents too.
And I guess we could even think about including that instead of the application saying exactly what we would do. We could have the application, a check mark about like, I'm feeling nervous about how I can afford this. And that can be part of the first year garden coordinator person is I'll talk to those people about different connections we have for whatever their issue is. If it's the $20, I'll bring that to you guys and we'll talk about it. Or if it's more them not knowing where to get seeds and stuff and help them, work that way.
Oh,
Or, whatever, just like creating like an actual access point for like those conversations to take, not assume. It sounds like the need could be the fee or the need could be the maintenance or the need could be time that people don't have. And that's sort of, I think, why we brought up the first year gardener thing anyways. And then we can work on those conversations with people. Yeah, Margie.
the one thing that we need to avoid doing is acting like people's savior. Like, oh, if you're nervous, we can't ask people. We just can't put that out there. It's like it has to be a general statement so it covers everybody. So we could make all this information available to everybody. And that would probably help a few people or maybe a lot of people. I don't know.
I guess the prompt on the sheet could say, check this box if you'd like to talk to Sarah, the first year garden coordinator, regarding fees, price of seeds, price of supplies. Well, we could lay all of that out so that it's more
Or how about just more general?
open to
Check this
what?
box. Check this box if you'd like information on affordable resources or something like that.
Okay.
Something where you don't have to face somebody or give a name, give your own name. I've just seen so much shame this year, these last 2 years since the pandemic. And I never felt it myself, but I try to
I guess my one hesitance is no one is going to be able to have a conversation about accessibility and affordability completely anonymously. If we want to put in there that I won't share this person's identity who's having struggles, I can just say, or maybe that's something we should just bring up as part of a different discussion, is how we want to handle like people's privacy around this stuff. Because if we want to offer them accessibility, one of us is going to need to talk to that person about what that means,
Yeah, that's True, and maybe I'm conveying I'm not conveying what I mean in a good way. It's more like there's probably a lot of people who feel fine about saying I need a discount. I mean, probably more than are feeling hesitant. And maybe it is a good idea to talk to somebody about free resources, you know, and checking a box on an application is not anonymous because your name's on the application. It's just easier to check a box than to get in touch with somebody, and maybe someone will get in touch with you.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They can check the box on the application and I'll get in touch with them as the first year coordinator to see what their needs are.
Is it,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
is it possible that if we say designated one plot divided so that we would have 2 plus mine, which would be 3 plots, and just say there are 3, or even make it a little bit more general. There are a limited number of half plots at $10, but you know, anybody interested in those plots, submit the name to Margie, and then Margie can, in her wisdom, determine the best people.
No, I'm not doing that. No,
You,
no.
well, I mean, it's,
Maybe first come, first serve.
Yeah, I think we should not be sticking the words, you know, needy or that kind of thing.
I didn't use the words needy.
Right, I understand, but that has been kind of the theme. So rather to say, like you said, Ted, that we have a limited number of half plots available at a lower price, and just put this out for everybody because we don't know how people's circumstances change through time, and also have some kind of resource page for, you know, seed exchange. Forbes has a seed library. Right. There's more budget ways of doing this, and that might apply to a lot more people than we realize.
And you know, Ted, you're not taking half a plot because you can't afford it. So there might be more people who can manage a half a plot even though they can afford a whole plot. So we shouldn't limit half plots to people who need it because of money.
Well, I'm not saying, I mean, it, what I was saying was we have a limited number of plots at the cost of $10 a half plot. And anybody who's interested, we don't know whether or not, and we're not saying that it's for people who can't afford it. Anybody, suppose you have 10 people apply, and then you go, my assumption, perhaps it was wrong, was that we're supposed to figure out the people who would need it and get the plots. And that's why I was suggesting, Margie, that if you get 10 people who say, I want a half plot, you seem like somebody who would be best able to figure out among those 10 people who would be most needy.
No, I'm not doing that. And I don't like that word needy either. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to choose. I had an issue like this at work recently and I refused to do it. Who's the poorest person? Who deserves this the most?
I think what Ted's saying is that if we get all the applications in and we have a limited number of plots, how will we decide? Are we going to give it to the person who expressed that they can only afford half a plot? Or the person who expressed, I have a disability, I can only handle half a plot? How will we deal with that? Exactly. And that sounds perfect.
And also, maybe no one will express a need, so we shouldn't be, I don't think we should be doling out things before we know that there's an actual need. I think we start
We're
with
not.
a box like you suggested. I think it was Stephen, no one will be turned away. And maybe someone will say, oh, what does that mean? And I'm the one who they contact, so they might say to me, what do you mean no one will be turned away? Then I can say, well, we'll figure something out for you so you can garden, and then we can convene and figure something out. I don't think we need to set up everything in case there's a need, you know? It's just that for me, raising fees needs to come with an agreement to do something for someone who can't pay the extra fee. So we're doing it, and that's cool. That's good. We're going to figure out what our expenses are if our fees meet the expenses. There's 42 plots I just counted that we potentially collect fees from. We didn't fill all 42 this season. People kept coming and going. I don't know. Maybe we did for a little while and then people left, but I think they didn't get their money back. So I don't think we need to do this right now about that. We just need to know that we will do something if someone can't afford a plot because we raised $5 or $10.
Linnea,
I mean,
what were
that's
you-
good. There's a lot of great ideas here, but we need more concrete information before we can actually act on the ideas, is what I'm seeing and hearing.
We can also have a box, and people who feel called can also pay over what the
Yeah.
fee is.
Oh, that's a
And-
nice idea.
Well,
And
we
Yeah.
could just do a sliding scale, like I said,
Oh, then
yeah,
and then we're done with this conversation. We just, because this conversation's, I've been on Zoom for like 9 hours today, and this conversation is kind of not going anywhere. And I really think if we just do a sliding scale, I mean, I've gone to acupuncture with sliding scales and different treatments for sliding scales. I think if we just go that route, it's probably going to be the simplest way to do this without being intrusive on anybody's personal finances. You know?
I guess the one thing I would say maybe to Ted, and I know Mark left, but is that as part of your budget, as you know, you're going to come up with a number, and what we should do with our next meeting is either decide what range of sliding scale is going to be the most sustainable based on the budget you guys establish, like what, you know, so that just because the whole reason we're bringing this up is because we're worried our budget's going to go up next summer. And so if we do sliding scale, that'll make our budget even more variable, or it won't. Or if we have a certain number of like half plots, that'll make the budget. So we just need to figure out what our budget is, what our goal number is. So that way, however we want to organize it, be it that we offer a certain amount of half plots or have it sliding scale or have certain scholarship plots or whatever. I mean, that's why we're talking so long about this, is because it seems unnecessary because we don't have the information, but Ted needs the information so that he can give us back what he thinks like makes the most sense for how to get the money we need. So that's the only, and I think all these ideas, like you just said, Frank, are kind of all maybe going to work depending on what we decide on and what the budget ends up being.
That's what I meant. Can we make a motion for that? Can you put that into a motion so we can move on? Can we do that?
Do you just
Yeah,
say, I make a motion to,
I'm not sure what
budget.
motion to make.
Okay.
We're going to make a budget.
Make a motion to table this discussion on fees until we have the concrete information about cost.
And number of plots,
Oh, yeah.
because we don't know that yet either.
Okay, I made a motion. No one's seconding.
Okay, I second the motion.
I will second it.
So we can move on. Yay.
Yay.
We had to vote on the motion.
Okay. Vote on the motion. I don't know how to do that. Who's gonna call that?
What is it, Stephen? We say all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed,
Nay. Any abstentions?
passes unanimously.
No, we
Oh, yeah,
extension.
abstentions.
Okay, what's next? I want to say I think there are some great ideas that came out of this conversation. I don't.
Oh,
think-
no, I don't think, I think there's a lot of value in the conversation. It's
And I
just,
like the sliding scale. I like the half plots. I like the discount rate. It all sounds great. It's very encouraging. I like all the ideas and
Yeah, I do
finding
too.
out.
And the resource list is great.
Yeah, it's good.
we need to get Laura to come to, Laura Fisher to come to a meeting in the spring.
Haven't you been trying that for a few months, Frank?
Yeah, no, she's managing a farm in Greenfield and she owns her own farm, so it's kind of hard to if we could tell her months ahead, I think we could work it out. But because she's written off the seed companies and gotten seed donations from them. And Ted, I think we actually got some other money donated. Laura would know that. This was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm pretty sure we're under the Conservation Commission, not Parks and Recreation.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah. But
you're right.
if we could get Laura to a meeting, it would be really helpful. She was treasurer briefly as well. So, but she would know about that second set of donations too, if you're doing a historical perspective on stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea of contacting some of the seed companies. I've gone to like seed festivals where they've had boxes of seeds where maybe the germination rate was just a little bit lower than they wanted to sell, and they were giving those out for free. So if they would be willing to send some small amounts, a few places send us a few small amounts, that would be great. Then people would have that as an additional resource.
Yeah, I know she got some from Seed Savers. She's gotten them from Burpee in the past. So
Baker Creek Heirloom, I know, has given seeds out.
yeah, and they're not far away. So, yeah, no, but that's going to require somebody to do coordinate.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it as part of the.
Yay. Who was going to do the seed library? Somebody, was it Jacob?
Forbes
some
Library
garden-
had one.
Yeah.
No, but one of the gardeners who came on recently said they would do a seed library. Does anybody else remember that? Nobody.
I do, Margie.
Yeah, do you remember who it was?
It was last year.
Yeah.
And it may have been Jacob. I know he brought his family down to the plot, but I haven't even seen him this year.
I saw him. He's one of the few newer gardeners that I had conversations with. So maybe I'll ask him if I see him. Or I'll
Okay. But you're right, he did. If you look, Margie, I did capture it in the minutes. We'd have to go back, but it's in a minute. In a minute.
Sarah, when you're looking for free seed and other resources, I know that Job Lot, Ocean State Job Lot, every year they give away some seeds through a program through University of Rhode Island, which I think is coming from Burpee. But I always forget about it until the end of the year when it's too late. So, but we might be able to follow that chain, and it might be available for us as non-individuals. So I can't post to the chat, but if you just search for free seeds Job Lot, you get a page, and there might be some info on there.
Well, and that just got me thinking, talking about a university, I could see if UMass would offer maybe free soil sampling tests too, so people could see nutrients and stuff. Might be helpful. Great.
Well, I don't know if folks noticed, but when we started the new business section and then took the vote on the officers, that the torch was passed at that point.
Oh,
And Sarah took it up. We didn't, and she's been chairing it. So I leave it to you, Sarah, to pick it up from here to find out whether there's any other items of new business, and if not, we can, you can ask for a motion to adjourn.
oh God. I didn't know the torch had been passed. That's scary.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's seamless.
Yeah, does anyone have anything else?
I know it's late. I just wanted to bring it up. Mark had expressed the fact that he really didn't want to have to write a personal check for the compost,
Okay.
and whether or not we could do it through, but we don't. If we pay for the compost, different people use different amounts. So I think we just have to think of a way in which we can handle the compost, and it's a pay-as-you-go basis. And I would say that compost for our pollinator and donation gardens certainly, and anything else that is community garden resources can be paid for by our budgeting, but that it be done individually, and that we just set a date at which all the money has to be in, or by a certain date, or you will not receive compost. Not wait until the day of delivery, but to get the money in early, and so that Mark has the money in hand if he agrees to even do this again, and can pay it directly without having to write personal checks. And I just wanted to bring that up so that everybody's aware of that, and we'll figure out a way to deal with it when the time comes. But it was an issue that was raised. I know Mark's not here to talk about it now, but I thought it was important to bring up. So sorry to extend the meeting any further than we need to.
No, that's important.
I just have a comment on that. At Grow Food Northampton, we pay directly to the compost people. And, if there was like an order form online and we would pay directly, there was nobody had to write any personal checks. It was mostly on, I guess you could send a personal check in, and then whatever was delivered from everyone paying, and then you just grab the amount of compost that you ordered, and it was done that way.
Well, we did it, and people paid cash to reimburse Mark, but he wound up having to give the compost people his personal check for the full amount.
Right.
And I don't know if some people were slow in getting the money to him or whatever, but to take that out of the equation, I think to collect the money, have the money, and we don't have a checking account that we can write checks. So the only way it would be possible for us would be to do it through a purchase order type of an arrangement. And we certainly don't have the money in our petty cash to cover the expenses that are that large. So we've got to figure out a way, pay in cash, pay up early so he has the money, or you don't get compost. I don't know. But I think we do have to think, if anybody can come up with an idea of how to handle that, I guess it would be appreciated.
Well, not to extend the meeting too much, but maybe we can reflect on some ideas, or we could have it somehow be something that people bring to that required, first work day or new orientation, new gardener orientation, that if you want compost, you got to bring your, $5 then, or something like that. But yeah, I think setting some kind of date would be good. And then we'll do it through a purchase order. Maybe makes so much sense. Right. Okay. And now I say it's adjourned. Is that what I say?
No, you have to-
Oh, wait, what's
you have
up,
to-
Margie?
Motion, you make a
Oh,
motion.
motion to adjourn. I see.
I second it.
All right, great. Everybody in agreement say aye. Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Sleep tight, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Good ideas. Thank
Have a good weekend.
Here,
You too.
Okay.
my cat will say goodbye.
Bye, Kitty. So at 9:22, there was a motion to adjourn that was adopted.
Oh, look, we can't say goodbye. Yes, we can.
Oh, 9:22.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.